So in this video, I wanted to share with you my current workflow of how I take and make new notes. First, let's start how I capture new notes in my current workflow, let's say. So first, taking quick or fleeting notes. I usually have Obsidian open on my computer all the time. I also use Raycast Launcher in my Mac OS, which has Obsidian plugin that you can create a new Obsidian notes from everywhere in your computer. So it's also very handy to use it. Some other time I take fleeting notes or quick notes on just paper index cards, and I put them on a physical inbox on my desk. And on later time, I usually process those notes in my physical inbox and in my Obsidian inbox and move them if I need. It's also easy to do this in Obsidian, especially if you have hotkey set for everything. So let's say that I have created a new note and now I have my new note and let's say that I have already processed the node, and now the node is node type is now permanent, so it's still in the inbox. But imagine that I want to move it. I already have a hotkey to move nodes. I move my nodes to whatever folder I want by pressing Command M, and I choose where I would like to put this new node. As easy as that, I process my inbox with the help of hotkeys. Of course, at the beginning, I need to write and rewrite the node into a permanent node or a permanent state that would allow this node to live in my Zettelkasten. Moving and creating new nodes should be frictionless. So you should have this ready in your fingertips with hotkeys. The second thing, how I take and capture literature notes or reference notes from books or other materials. I only use index cards and pen to do so. Even if I have this material is ebook or something like this, I usually print the ebook and start studying it. That helps me to avoid the distraction that comes from the internet or any other application on my machine. I can get away with my paper and pen from these device distractions. Using pen and paper, especially index cards, helps me in a different ways. First, index card has a very limited space, so you have to think how you are going to fit this idea into this limited space. Also, it helps me to avoid passive copying or passive taking text from the book, because as I mentioned, it has a very limited space. Also, writing or being forced to write slows you down, makes you think about what you are writing and how this going to be related to what you already have in your knowledge base. Again, it makes me also think if what I'm writing makes sense or not, if it has any gaps or follow-ups or questions that I need to add to it. After I finish my study session, I collect all those notes that I made on those index cards and then move them to my physical inbox. And when the time comes to review my physical inbox, I rewrite them into Obsidian, allowing myself to rethink again about what I have taken and rewriting them again, maybe this time with more understanding, and I connect them with other notes that I already have in my Zettelkasten. I know this is a long, slow process to study, definitely it is, but I prefer to study one book very well and understand its content rather than studying or reading 10 books with a mediocre understanding. Another step in my workflow is very important one, which is the system maintenance. Usually I have a fixed time to review my system. Every week or every 2 weeks, I review if there is something that I need to update or if I need to update some structure on my current workflow. But more importantly, I usually review my notes that I have with the help of DataView to list all literature, reference, index, and permanent notes, where I pick random notes and I start to review them and update them if needed. Sometimes I find some old notes that need to be split down into multiple, or some notes that I don't have enough metadata or properties that I need to add to them. By doing so, I make sure that my notes are always connected and serving me as I expect. One more thing in my current workflow is the topics discovery. When I have many notes around a specific topic, I usually know from the graph view, like here for example, you can see this you can see this area is somehow swelled around software design tag. So that means that I have good amount of nodes around the software design topic. So using this to identify what topics that can also be branched out of the software design is important. So I know this from the graph view or even by intuition. Sometimes you know that you have written many notes about a specific topic and you know that you need to review them and make an index note for them, or even a mind map about this topic. One more thing that I share my technical and PKM notes in my GitHub as open source notes. I have GitHub repository where I share them with whoever interested in this topic. I use GitHub to sync my main personal knowledge base when I commit new thing or when I commit a new commit in my GitHub repository. I have a pre-commit hook that transfer any nodes that is under resources technical and under resources PKM. Then they are moved to another folder where I have my public GitHub notes. Then I commit those notes as well. And I have even website serving those notes on the internet. So whoever is interested can check this website where I have all my public, let's say, Zettelkasten there. However, I use Git and GitHub to sync my notes. I still use the Obsidian thing. You can know from here that I use Obsidian thing to sync my notes across all devices, like my phone and my iPad. It works very well for me and it is relatively cheap at $4 every month. Also good way to support the project or to support Obsidian. Last thing that I want to share is that there is more plugins that I use. For example, there is two that I want to highlight here. The first one is Projects plugin, which is helping me to organize and do project planning, and it is super easy to use. The second one is the periodic notes. It's also very useful if you want to have weekly and monthly and yearly beside the daily notes that comes with Obsidian. I usually use the weekly note for my weekly planning and weekly tasks. And that is my current workflow. It is suiting my needs for now, but it also might change in the future as my understanding and my needs change. Feel free to copy parts that might help you to improve your workflow. And I would also like to know if you have any tips or improvements for my current workflow. Feel free to leave them in the comments.